Hello and welcome back to It's New. I'm Barry Schwartz and I write a lot of content. I don't know if it's helpful or not. We'll find out soon. Mordy, what are you covering?
Like all the girls I dated in high school, Google says, move on.
A little bit too much information there. Greg, what do you got for us?
Just in time for Halloween, we've got one of the spookiest confirmations in a Google Ads account you've ever seen.
And I'll be talking about Google's highest ever ad revenue quarter in history. Yada, yada, yada.
Okay, so Google held one of their creator summits with Danny Sullivan and a bunch of creators who were impacted by the helpful content update, which Danny did before with a couple of other sites. And it's great that Danny is doing this. I want to say that, but at the onset, it's good that Danny Sullivan is doing this and he's meeting with people. It seems like, and again, I wasn't there, so I'm only reading what this Barry Schwartz guy is reporting, what other people are saying.
Yes.
So I don't, right. And it's not Barry, actually. Barry is just reporting what he has seen other people say.
And just a caveat there, I always got in trouble for reporting on what Googlers have said at conferences when not being there, because they're like, I was misquoted. So it's possible that somebody was misquoted here, but go ahead.
There's a lot. And again, it's all hearsay. So here's what I have to say. Google Danny Sullivan was basically one of the creators who there took to X, and basically in a nutshell said that, well, Google said there's an update coming. Don't expect, if you were hit by the helpful content update, to see any real sort of restoration. That basically Google told them to move on. There were other comments in there, like someone else said, well, Google said that it wasn't about the content itself, which is confusing. The whole thing, all of this really seems confusing. All the takeaways seem confusing. I don't understand. Like, it seems like Google's aware of the problem. They don't really want to address it, or they're not able to. I don't get it. My biggest takeaway from all of this is I don't know who's in charge of Google's comms, but I think it needs to be somebody else.
Interesting. Yeah, just again to summarize. So like you said, Google had an event called the Web Creators Summit. It happened yesterday. And they invited a bunch of people who were actually hit hard by previous updates, mostly helpful content updates, but some were actually hit by core updates. Most of those sites didn't really see significant recoveries. They maybe saw little blips. That being said, they had people like Pandu Nayak, who's like the VP of Google Search, Danny Sullivan, a bunch of Google engineers at this event. And they had a whole day event. They treated them nicely. I think they gave them some swag and so forth. I don't think they paid for their flights or anything like that. That being said, the Morgan from Charleston Craft wrote, basically summarized on Twitter, if you were hit by the helpful content update, do not expect to recover anytime soon. They told us repeatedly an update is coming very soon, or fairly soon, according to Mike, and not to expect any recovery. Basically, and then she said, like, they're telling us to basically move on, do something else. There's nothing for us to do. And Mike Hardkicken from Mountain Weekly News had a really good recap. Definitely recommend you read it. Going through quotes from Danny Sullivan and Pandow and other people there. And basically one thing was interesting is that Danny Sullivan said it was not about his content. It's like, he said Danny Sullivan, he basically told him that Danny Sullivan told him that content was not the issue. I'm like, this is the helpful content update. How is that not the issue? So again, there might be some misquotes here. I'm not sure. I don't want to I hope Danny Sullivan responds saying, yes, this is what I said or not. But you could imagine, I mean, the comments are starting to explode on Search Engine Roundtable. The people who were hit are like, what the hell? What do you want from me? It's insane. It's actually absolutely mind-boggling. But updates coming soon. So, and it's not going to help you. So.
Yeah. And it's nice that a few folks were allowed to come here and see this. It would be also very nice to have this like streamed or something as well, because there's a lot of people hurting from this change. And then I think it almost makes it worse by seeing the stuff where it's like, oh, it's not the content. It's like, okay, and that's just coming out, and it's just a clarity thing. Like, to just have a select set of people come there, it would be nice to have some clarity, Barry, to your point.
Why would Google invite them there just to tell them to move on? They couldn't have been an email.
I really think the move on thing is more of a misinterpretation of saying, like, maybe the content you're producing is something that shouldn't be ranking in the first place. And I know Morty, you've covered that topic before. So I don't know. It's hard to like quote these things that are quotes from people who actually were hit by these, and there's a lot of emotions involved. So, and what they're hearing versus what Google's trying to say. And there's always an issue around that. And it's no matter how good of a comms person you have, no matter what, especially when you have a private event like this, it's going to be impossible for them to, I'm surprised they held it. I mean,
Yeah.
And let them even take, like they should have said, you can't quote anything. You can't talk about anything here. It's just, they should have been like, this is private and keep it internal only. But no, they let them do whatever they want, which is kudos to them, but it looks like it's backfiring big time.
One note on this too, Google has the best comms person in search. They just need to let them cook. You know, like Danny is phenomenal. Even Morgan is like, Danny's like the nicest guy, but nice doesn't pay my bills was one of the tweets that they had. And like, if Danny could get out in front of stuff and not be so regimented, that'd be great.
Yeah, I totally agree. I was saying on the Edge of the Web podcast yesterday, we recorded, like it feels like Danny gets thrown under the bus and they're okay with it, and it's really annoying.
Yeah,
I don't know if they're okay with it. I think it's just that's Danny's position.
They don't have a problem with it. They keep doing it.
He seems to be doing it a lot less. If you look at his Twitter feed or his LinkedIn feed, all of them are posting. I mean, John's posting on LinkedIn a lot, but Danny has like been hush hush. So I'm not sure. I always told Google from day one, I'm like, it's a lose-lose situation for them to communicate. No matter what, the more they communicate, the more they share. Oh, that's great information. But what does that mean? Or they just have to makes them look bad every single time they communicate, because one new piece of advice from them leads to more misunderstanding or more questions. And then they end up getting called a monopoly by Department of Justice, and they get thrown in jail.
But this is communicating though, Barry. This is communicating on arguably the biggest issue in SEO in the past year, let's say a top 3.
Yeah, for sure.
And they're communicating just to a very small set of people. They could do better.
Had the Alita interview. I interviewed them. There was other interviews that were covered. So they were communicating to a bunch of people, and this is communicating to a small, they've done this before. They've done web summits in the London office, I believe.
But they're communicating to people that already hit by the HCU and aren't going to have any traffic, so nobody's going to see it.
Right, but I also interviewed Danny. Leda also interviewed Danny, so there was multiple versions of this.
Yeah, but to that point with Danny, though,
That's
like
fair.
he said one thing to Aleda, and then he, like 3 weeks later, it's a completely different thing happening in the rankings with these websites and their subfolders being hit.
The hard thing about this is the early communication around this to the people who were hit by the helpful content update says, we are working on something. Hold on, something's coming. We'll like brace yourself for a change. Like it was like things are going to change, and the change never happened. And now it's like, maybe it's time to move on. Anyway, moving on. Greg, let's talk about some Google Ads of Wild Nuts.
Yeah, so there was a report back over on LinkedIn from Andy Youngs about a week ago saying that a Google rep actively made changes to a client account without any authorization from the client. And the client changes that were made, which is a very important part here, is that they were adjusting headline pinning, changing bidding strategy. And the changes that the rep made did not show in the change history. Your change history is sort of like your ledger for all you Bitcoin bros out there that shows everything that happened. And apparently these were not in there. I'd seen another screenshot of this where the changes were made to improve ad strength. Ad strength is not something that's tied to conversions whatsoever. It's simply a metric to get you to show more and to be able to spend more, to be able to do better in the auction from just a sheer showing up and having a good impression share. But if you have an ad with good ad strength that converts and never converts once in its life, or an ad with low impression share and converts 50% of the time, it's going to go toward we just know it's not a factor in actual success. So Ginny had confirmed that this was the case and that it was obviously mishandled. So this isn't something that is going to be the norm, which is the biggest thing. Ginny said this person did not properly follow the processes for ensuring approvals, and that it was a mistake and not intentional. It was intentional, but it was a mistake. She's saying it's not intentional that people can do this. So if you saw this or read the Search Engine Roundtable story, just know this is not the norm. Okay, and then one other. Do you have something, Barry?
Yeah, I mean, again, the whole search history, there has to be better communication about these changes made by third parties or by Google in a better and easier way, maybe like a notification, some type of better notification around this, because I think the average person, like you guys manage how many ad campaigns, so many little details. How are you going to know if like a small little change was made somewhere that actually you'll know like 2 days later? I mean,
your change history. You can look in the change history.
Are you constantly looking at the change history? Is like there's alerts popping up constantly? You manage 100
No,
accounts?
but if you see a dip in performance and it's around a certain date, the easiest thing is to say, let's go back to change history. If you're on the SEO side of things, it's sort of like when you had annotations in GA Universal, right? You could be like, oh, what happened here? I'm gonna annotate all these different updates. I'm gonna annotate new changes. I'm gonna do this.
There'll probably be refunds and stuff. So I don't know.
But if you can't see it, that's the problem. There is no notification in that ledger. So that's the issue for me. And then something I love, this is so smarmy in my opinion. Barry, you have it over on Search Engine Roundtable. I suggest you go check it out. But Bing is hiding ads labels after the domain. Remember a couple weeks back, they tried putting sponsored and making it look more like an ad. Now they're going the opposite direction. Instead of putting ad in front of the URL, it's at the very end of the URL or of the name of the site. So the example you have there is like Viator. And then after the name Viator has the little ad, very, very hard to see. So how could this impact you? If this does roll out to everything, you may see more clicks on ads, people not knowing that they're ads, less clicks on organic. Who knows? Just check it, track it, and see how it works with you.
Yeah, and I had to include, there wasn't another test where Shamim noticed that Bing was actually testing the ad label in front, but a nice line separated between the ads and the actual organic results. So I want to give that to them as the bottom of the story so people won't see that and it's hidden away. So thought it was kind of appropriate to do that. And then moving on to Google's ad news, or not ad news, but Google's revenue news. They had the pretty big quarter, massive amounts of money, massive amounts of profit, while content creators can't even pay for their flights to get to Google to complain. It's pretty big. Their overall revenue was up 15% year over year, quarter to quarter from a year ago. Their ad revenue across all ads, including display, was up about 10 point something percent. I think their search ad revenue was up about 12%. It was massive. In fact, this was the largest. I don't think anybody covered this. This is the largest ad revenue quarter for Google ever. Their highest one before this was Q4 2023. They got close last quarter, but they were still below that. And now they finally broke that. I assume Q4 of this year is going to be massive because of all, the election ads are still like crazy. And also all the year and holiday shopping and so forth. So it's a big quarter. I think next quarter is going to be big. And with that, their Reddit actually announced their earnings. They were up 16%. I think their stock is, let me just check right now. Oh, they're blocking it. Reddit stock price was up crazy. Yeah, up 22% overnight. It's insane. So good for Reddit, good for Sundar Pichai. And there are a couple things in there that you might want to pull away from that. One thing was they cut costs of their AI overviews, the queries to generate AI reviews by 90% over the past 18 months. So it's pretty big, 90% reduction in costs for that. That was a big concern for Wall Street. And one other thing is that 25% of the code that Google's engineers are writing is generated through AI, which is insane.
Scary.
Obviously, it's scary. And yeah, Greg, you have a development team there. I have a development team with me. I'm sure they're using AI for things here and there. I'm not sure it's 25%, maybe. Who knows? But it definitely will help. I'm not firing anybody on my team, but I don't think Google is letting go of engineers. So I'm not sure. I
don't know. Every time that Google Ads goes down once a month, hey, that's AI for you there. I also saw that people, they had said that people that use AI overviews come back to search more often.
Yeah, they said it last time too. It's part of their PR spin.
Yeah. It's also maybe because
they're looking for information they haven't gotten yet.
Yeah, it's like, oh, you told me to drink urine. Okay, I'm gonna go do another search.
When I interviewed, forgot who, somebody at Google, executive, they said if they see people going back to Google in the short term, that's okay. But in the long term, if they see people coming back and back and back and back, it signals like it's an issue with Google search quality because they're not getting what they need. So it's just an interesting thing. So it's like it's a win-win.
Content.
Yeah, I guess so. Any event, we're a bit along on this recording. So hope everybody has a great day. Hopefully you guys will see recoveries with the next update coming soon. And if not, I hope you guys bought Google stock a while back. Anyway, or Reddit. Hopefully Reddit. Reddit will be a big one for you guys. Anyway, back tomorrow with more It's New. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Move on.